The 13th of September, 1811. It is the third week the young newlywed Bettina née Brentano has been staying with her husband, the poet Achim von Arnim, at Goethe's in Weimar. Bettina is 26, Arnim 30. Goethe's wife, Christiane, 49. Goethe is 62 and no longer has a single tooth in his head. Arnim loves his young wife, Christiane loves her old gentleman, and Bettina, even after her marriage, continues her flirtation with Goethe. This particular morning, Goethe has stayed at home and Christiane accompanies the young couple to an art exhibition arranged by a family friend, Councillor Meyer, containing some paintings Goethe has praised. Madame Christiane does not understand art, but she remembers what Goethe said about the paintings, and she can comfortably pass off his opinions as her own. Arnim hears Christiane's authoritative voice and notices the glasses on Bettina's nose. Every time Bettina, rabbit-like, wrinkles up her nose, those glasses bob up and down. Arnim knows the signs. Bettina is irritated to the point of fury. As if sensing an approaching storm, he slips discreetly into the next room. The moment he's gone, Bettina interrupts Christiane. No, she doesn't agree at all. Those pictures are really impossible. Christiane, too, is irritated for two reasons. First of all, this young patrician, in spite of being married and pregnant, dares to flirt with her husband, and on top of that, she contradicts his opinions. What in the world does she want? To lead the parade of Goethe's fans and at the same time to lead the parade of his detractors? Christiane is incensed by each of these ideas, but even more by the fact that one logically cancels out the other. So she announces in a very loud voice that it is impossible to consider such outstanding paintings impossible. Whereupon Bettina reacts, it is not only possible to declare them impossible, but it is necessary to add that the pictures are ridiculous. Yes, they are ridiculous, and she brings up a series of arguments to support this contention. Christiane listens and finds that she doesn't in the least understand what the young woman is trying to tell her. The more excited Bettina gets, the more she uses words she has learned from young university graduates of her acquaintance. And Christiane knows she is using them precisely because Christiane will not understand them. She is watching Bettina's glasses bobbing up and down on her nose, and it seems to her that her unintelligible language and her glasses are one and the same. Indeed, it is remarkable that Bettina is wearing glasses at all. After all, everyone knows that Goethe has condemned the wearing of glasses in public as a breach of good taste and an eccentricity. So if Bettina, in spite of that, wears glasses in Weimar, it is because she wants to show, brazenly and defiantly, that she is part of the young generation. Precisely the one that is distinguished by romanticism and glasses. And we know what people are trying to say by their proud and ostentatious identification with the younger generation, that they will still be alive when their elders, in Bettina's case, Christiane and Goethe, have long been ludicrously pushing up daisies. Bettina keeps on talking. She is getting more and more excited, and Christiane's hand suddenly flies out in the direction of her face. At the last moment, she realizes that it isn't proper to slap a guest. She pulls back so her hand merely skims Bettina's forehead. Bettina's glasses fall to the ground and shatter. Throughout the gallery, people turn and stare in embarrassment. Poor Arnim rushes in from the next room, and because he can't think of anything better, he squats down and starts to collect the pieces, as if he wanted to glue them back together. Everyone waits tensely for hours to hear Goethe's verdict. Whose side will he take once he hears the whole story? Goethe takes Christiane's side and forbids the young couple to enter his house ever again. When a wine glass breaks, it signifies good luck. When a mirror breaks, you can expect 7 years of misfortune. And when a pair of glasses breaks, that means war. Bettina declares in all the salons of Weimar, quote, "That fat sausage went crazy and bit me," end of quote. The remark passes from mouth to mouth, and Weimar is bursting with laughter. That immortal remark, that immortal laughter, still resounds down to our own time. Immortality. Goethe was not afraid of the word. In his book, From My Life, with its famous subtitle, Poetry and Truth, Dichtung und Wahrheit, he writes about the curtain in the new Dresden theater that he eagerly scrutinized when he first saw it at the age of 19. In the background it showed, I am quoting Goethe, Der Tempel der Ruhms, the Temple of Fame, surrounded by the great dramatists of all time. In the center, without paying them any attention, quote, a man in a light cloak was striding directly toward the temple. He was shown from the back, and there was nothing remarkable about him. It was supposed to be Shakespeare without predecessors, unconcerned about paragons of the past. He walked alone straight toward immortality. Of course, the immortality that Goethe talks about has nothing in common with religious faith in an immortal soul. What is involved is the different, quite earthly immortality of those who, after their death, remain in the memory of posterity. Everyone can achieve immortality to a smaller or greater degree, of shorter or longer duration, and this idea already starts occupying people's minds in early youth. They used to say about the mayor of a certain Moravian village, which I often visited on boyhood outings, that he had had an open coffin at home, and that in happy moments when he felt well satisfied with himself, he would lie down in it and visualize his funeral. These were the most beautiful moments of his life, these reveries in the coffin. He dwelt on his immortality. Naturally, when it comes to immortality, people are not equal. We have to distinguish between so-called minor immortality, the memory of a person in the minds of those who knew him, the kind of immortality the village mayor longed for, and great immortality, which means the memory of a person in the minds of people who never knew him personally. There are certain paths in life that from the very beginning place a person face to face with such great immortality, uncertain, it is true, even improbable, yet undeniably possible. They are the paths of artists and statesmen. Of all the European statesmen of our time, the one who has most occupied himself with the thought of immortality has probably been Francois Mitterrand. I remember the unforgettable ceremony that followed his election as president in 1981. The square in front of the Pantheon was filled with an enthusiastic crowd, and he was withdrawing from it. He was walking alone up the broad stairway, exactly as Shakespeare walked to the Temple of Fame on the curtain described by Goethe, holding the stems of 3 roses. Then he disappeared from the people's sight and remained alone among the tombs of 64 illustrious corpses, followed in his thoughtful solitude only by the eyes of the camera, the film crew, and several million Frenchmen watching their television screens from which thundered Beethoven's Ninth. He placed the roses one by one on 3 chosen tombs. He was like a surveyor planting the 3 roses like 3 markers into the immense building site of eternity, to stake out a triangle in the center of which was to be erected the palace of his immortality. Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, who was president before him, invited a sanitation worker to breakfast in the Élysée Palace. That was the gesture of a sentimental bourgeois who longed for the love of common people and wanted them to believe that he was one of them. Mitterrand was not so naive as to want to resemble sanitation workers. No president can fulfill such a dream. He wanted to resemble the dead, which was much wiser. For death and immortality are an indissoluble pair of lovers, and the person whose face merges in our mind with the faces of the dead is already immortal, while still alive. I was always fond of the American President Jimmy Carter, but I felt something approaching real love when I saw him on the television screen, jogging with a group of fellow workers, trainers, and bodyguards. His forehead suddenly began to sweat. His face became distorted with pain. Fellow joggers rushed to his side, clutching and supporting him. It was a minor heart attack. Jogging was supposed to be an occasion for showing the nation the president's eternal youth. That's why cameramen had been invited. And it was not their fault that instead of an athlete bursting with health, they had to show an aging man with bad luck. A man longs to be immortal, and one day the camera will show us a mouth contorted in a pathetic grimace. The only thing we will remember about him, the only thing that will remain as a parabola of his entire life. He will enter a kind of immortality that we may call ridiculous. Tycho Brahe was a great astronomer, but all we remember about him today is that in the course of a festive dinner at the emperor's court, he was ashamed to go to the lavatory, so his bladder burst, and he departed among the ridiculous immortals as a martyr to shame and urine. He departed among them just like Christian Goethe, turned forever into a crazy sausage that bites. No novelist is dearer to me than Robert Musil. He died one morning while lifting weights. When I lift them myself, I keep anxiously checking my pulse, and I am afraid of dropping dead. For to die with a weight in my hand, like my revered author, would make me an epigon so unbelievable, frenetic, and fanatical as immediately to assure me of ridiculous immortality.